Okay, grade 12. I am going to try and do this again, right? I'm just going to set up. Okay, this is the dynamics for imperfect markets. So this is the work that you should have done this term, that you should have summarized for me already. So this presentation is a breakdown of everything that you need to know for imperfect markets, that chapter. This comes out of Mind the Gap, but because some of you don't work through Mind the Gap, I've done it for you. Okay. So here you need to understand the difference between the different market forms and their place within the economy. Okay. Each has got a different amount of participants, and the types that we basically get that you need to know for school purposes is a monopoly, oligopoly, and monopolistic competition. Please don't talk about a monopolistic, but there's no such thing. It's monopolistic competition. Both words need to be for the hybrid to be remembered correctly. All right? Yeah. There's definite characteristics for each one that you need to understand. So you can go and read through the rest of it there. For each one, you need to understand where income, or another name for income would be revenue, is, how the schedules is formulated, drawn, the tables are done. You need to understand the curves, the cost schedules for the costing, and the cost curves. All right. You also need to understand the definition for each form, and for a monopoly, you'll have to know the definition, the characteristics, the income or demand curves, and then whether you can make economical profit and or loss in the short term. Please understand that monopoly is the only organization that can make economical profit in the long term. Unlikely, but it is possible. What's very important is to know that you need to be able to compare all four organization types with each other. So here, particularly the curves, the fact that for a monopolist you're paying more, the quantity that you're producing is less, and that you can make economical profit in the long term. Oligopolies, here you need to know the definitions, the characteristics, non-price competition, whether you're busy with oligopolies or monopolistic competition, the concept, the work itself is similar. So please make sure that you study it well and summarize it well in oligopolies, and then you just need to go and rewrite it underneath the other. You need to understand that collusion is not legal in South Africa. And the competition commission things that you studied for at the end of chapter 5 or chapter 6 when you did perfect markets, that kind is one of the reasons why we don't have it. Okay. You get two types of cartels. You get a legal and a non-legal collusion. The non-legal collusion is a cartel. Okay. Now there's different examples of cartels out there. OPEC is one of the best and easiest to understand. That's the organization that buys and sells oil worldwide using the dollar, the American dollar. Okay. Then we've got our price leadership, which is a natural collusion. Okay, so that's the legal one. And then you need to understand that an oligopoly's curves looks exactly the same as a monopolist, but your level of your demand curve elasticity is just less. Okay, that's the only difference really. However, with an oligopoly, you need to understand the kinked demand curve as well. It's a specific type of monopoly or oligopoly. Okay, monopolistic competition, you need to know the definitions. You need to know the characteristics. Once again, my non-price competition, my collusion, the same information. However, here collusion is not possible because of the characteristic of the competition, which is that there's many participants. So it's not possible here. Then you also need to know the price and your level of production. And once again, you must be able to compare it with perfect competition. Okay. There is the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the different definitions. Now, because you guys battle with the concepts, I'm going to go and explain each one of them a little bit more. Please make sure that you spend time with these. You did them in grade 11, so you should know them. But I also know that some of you really don't. So let's go through them. Okay, these are alphabetically given to you in Mind the Gap. If there's any other definition that you're unsure of and you want me to explain, you please need to let me know on the WhatsApp group when that's set up. Okay, an artificial monopoly is when there's barriers, when the barriers to entry is set up in such a way that it is that there's the barrier is artificial. So the two examples that you've got over there is a legal artificial monopoly, where there's a law that prohibits it, and prohibits more people participating in the economy, and or a patent. So the best example of a patent in South Africa would probably be De Beers, that has got the sole right of selling and buying diamonds in South Africa, and or cutting them as well. So your laser cutting is also It used to be a worldwide example, but the last 3 years or so, Russia has also started an organization that's got the right. Okay. Now we're going to look at collusion. As I said, there's two examples of collusion. There is your tacit collusion, or tacit, and we'll look at the other one later. A cartel is a tacit form, and a tacit form of collusion is absolutely illegal in South Africa. However, you need to understand what is a cartel. So it's a group of producers with the goal of acting as a collective monopoly. So they act in the same way. They set their prices, they limit the quantity that they're producing, and they also influence how they're going to go about competing. All right. So this is bad, okay, which is why in South Africa it is illegal. Okay, you should have done, when you did collusion in earlier, and you did the competition commission, etc., you would have looked at that as well. Then imperfect market. Imperfect market is where there is something that limits the efficiency within the market, normally because it limits the quantity of the product available in the market. So there's a scarcity of the product. Legal monopoly is when there is a law that prohibits other people from competing. For instance, Eskom has got the sole right of selling electricity in South Africa. Then we've got monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition, it's very important, as I said, to remember to use both words. Sometimes some textbooks only talk about monopolistic, but that's bad English. Please don't do that. Use monopolistic competition. The reason for that is so that you understand the hybrid nature of monopolistic competition. So monopolistic competition, firstly, the competition part means that there's going to be many buyers and sellers that enter into the market. So it's relatively easy to enter into the market. However, because they use non-price form of collusion, of manipulating the market, of competition, each participant acts as an individual tiny monopolist through some other form of differentiating their products. A good example of that is toothpaste. Most companies in South Africa actually fall underneath this type. Okay? Right. Most markets. A monopoly is a structure where you've got one seller and entry into the market is blocked and there's no close substitutes. Natural monopolist, and the easiest example is the lack of access because of the high cost to enter in the market in the first place. Another natural monopoly is um, a, a supermarket in a coastal town where that's the only place where people can buy things, right? So that's a very good example, and it's a better example than most of the ones that your textbooks give you. Um, People tend to use ESCOM as an example of a natural monopoly. This is not a very good example because ESCOM has got both um, the legal aspect. When ESCOM was created in 1920, it definitely started out as a natural monopoly, but government quickly limited people buying and selling electricity um, by imposing a law, particularly the one in Transvaal, where as a user you are the old Transvaal, so the 4 provinces that formulate the old Transvaal all actually have a legal obligation to pay portion electricity by law. So not a very good example. But as I said, that many textbooks give that. Your manufacturing of different variations of products also makes it difficult for other organizations to participate. An oligopoly is a market structure where there's a few sellers that operate within the market. Entry is relatively difficult. Once again, it's often the quantity of money that's involved, and the product tends to be differentiated or standardized. So it depends on the nature of the product over here, which one would actually be. Price leadership is a form of collusion that is legal, and it's when one organization fixes or changes fixes the price or changes the quantity that they are producing, and the others follow in the market. Right, and that's that. All right, I hope you understood. Okay. If there's any other definition that you want to know and need to unpack, please let me know. All right. Thanks.